Welcome to another episode of Racing2Learn. We are a nonprofit that uses radio control to get kids excited about math and science. And we're just continuing to work on our Losi LST XXL2-E, our massive 1/8 scale monster truck, and just continuing to do some repairs on it. So we're doing a full breakdown in this series, essentially replacing some of the damaged parts. We bought this truck used, got some replacement parts from dollar Hobbyz. And actually I got to take one step back here. In the last episode we put in the diff mount, right? So we replaced the diff mount. Today we're going to actually replace the bulkhead. So this piece here that had broken previously, that's going to go back in here. So yeah, we actually need to put this in before we get that diff back in, because the diff slides into here. So let's go ahead and get this going. Basically, we're going to put this in here and screw it in from the top. So I actually have to go and find the right screws. All right, we tracked down the right screws, and actually, so in our previous video when we were tearing this down, I had noticed that this front screw here was missing its washer, telltale sign that it had been replaced. And the screw that had bent, right, you can tell that it's bent by spinning it here. See how that is not rotating symmetrically. It's definitely bent. So this screw was actually too short. So the appropriate screw is a 7/8 440 by 7/8 screw, 7/8 inch screw for you metric guys. The Losi uses SAE hardware, not metric. So we've got the right screws now. Let's go ahead and get the appropriate bulkhead back in. And beautiful thing about the Losi is that this LST XXLT, along with the rest of the Losi series here, is symmetric. So the front of the car, right, the front axle, front half, whatever you want to call it, is symmetric to the rear half. So the parts are interchangeable between the front and the back, which is really nice. All right, so we're just gonna get that lined up here and screw and washer. It's a pretty nice touch that they put these washers on the back of these parts as well. Alright, so we might have to finagle this to get this to line up properly, because it is threading through the top piece as well. Oh. Let's see here. This can be a little bit tricky to line this all up. It doesn't look like it's lining up there. I'm just pushing it further out. So let me just back off the screw. Go ahead and start the rear one. See if that can help us get things lined up here. Just tilt the truck to its side. So we'll go through the rear. Shock mount here. I'm just going to screw in, put my finger on the other side of that screw hole, just so I can tell when it's starting to peek out. And let's try this again. So I'm going to put the bulkhead back in here, and this might take some patience. So let's see. Let's try this again. Oops, wrong way. Got it upside down there. So let's try this again. Here, okay. Getting caught on a diff. Okay. Seems like threading it by hand helped there. Get the front screw in, and let's see if we can do the same with the back here. Just get everything to line up. I'm just kind of tilting it forward to see that it catches that screw there. It feels like it's caught the bulkhead there. Go ahead and use the power driver to finish this off. Oop. Alright, we'll cinch that up by hand. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and finish tightening up the screws in the shock tower here. Again, took a little finagling to get those screws lined up properly. Going through the shock tower into the bulkhead, and they're pretty long screws, so again, my trick was to just tighten the screws through the shock tower flush to the bottom plate there, and then line those screws up with the bulkhead, you know, trying to just line everything up properly, and then making sure that the screws caught into the bulkhead properly, and then just tightening everything down. So it was a little bit tricky. But there you go. The new bulkhead is in. The other one seemed like it was in okay shape, no visible cracks. Now we can go ahead and slide that diff back in. So again, it's marked top, that goes on the top. This part can be sometimes tricky, just getting, actually you probably want to pull the dog bones out first. Let's see here, how can we do this? Let's get the drive shafts lined up properly. Actually, we need to put the hinge pins on the other side first. So let me get those. And may just want to clean these off a little bit first. With paper towel here, just wipe these off. Make sure that they're free of dust. And slide them through, so line up the suspension arms here, right, and slide the pins through like so. Do the same here with the bottom. There we go. And we will have to, there was a piece that was missing last time that we discovered on the bottom here. So we'll have to make sure that that's in. Let's go ahead and do that. So if you recall in a previous episode, we discovered probably the cause of these, the underlying cause of the breakages was due to the fact that a piece was not reinstalled here. So, let's get a screwdriver to back this pin out a little bit. So this piece was missing. And that probably what caused the breakage. So get that piece in there. It captures the pins. Make sure that's all lined up. And we're gonna line all these suspension parts together so that we can the dog bones and whatnot, so we can slide the diff back in. Probably the easiest way to get all of these drive shafts back in is to actually loosen or pull out the hinge pins. So you might need a wrench or, you know, needle nose pliers to pull these out. You definitely don't want to mar them, but just slide them out. And that gives you more mobility with the dog bone ends, right, on the drive shafts. So you can see that one's popped out there. So what we're gonna do is slide the diff in first and get this center drive line lined up properly. All right, and then we'll go ahead and put these dog bone ends back into the drive shaft cups. There we go. And get the pins back in. So one side's in, and then the other side. Oh, actually, we gotta pull that back out. Get the drive shaft back in properly. Line that up. Bit of origami here. And get this pin back in. And of course, that missing plastic piece from before. Make sure that's in there. All right. So now we can go ahead and what do we do next? I already forgot how I disassembled this. So let's see here. We basically have to put the front bumper and the bottom plate back in. I would say we probably have to do that bottom plate first. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so here's the bottom plate. A little bit dusty. Might as well just clean that off while we're at it. Ooh. Almost lost the truck there. Alright, so clean it off a little bit and get this back in here. So I'll screw this back on. A lot of screws here, so we'll go ahead and just pause the video while we get those all in. So upon closer inspection, you do need to put the bumper in first because it actually slots in under this bottom plate. And also upon closer inspection, I noticed one of the screws is damaged here. So fortunately we got the tool and screw assortment from Hobbyz here. So we have pretty much all the replacement screws. Just gotta find the right one. And we also picked up this DeWalt bits that didn't have something for our cordless screwdriver there. So fortunately this does have a 1/16 bit. Let's just see how the fit is with these screws. Yeah, very a little more play definitely than the MIP drivers that we use, but we'll see how that ends up. So we'll go ahead and grab the bumper, right, so you can see where it actually slots in. Let me undo this screw here. Oh, we actually have to put on the front plate first. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so just putting in the diff retainers here. If they don't go in one way, they appear to be pretty symmetrical, but if they don't fit in one way, just flip it over and put it in the other way. So the sides, again, this side didn't seem to go in all the way there, so just flip it around. They seem to be pretty much the same left to right. So now that we've got those in, we can go ahead and put on this piece here. And I might be butchering some of the names of these parts. These pins need to go in a little bit deeper. Snap in this, and this basically ties the whole front end together. We noticed that the 440 by 5/8 countersunk screws had some damage on them. Didn't feel real comfortable reusing them, so got some newer hardware out of our screw assortment that we got from Hobbyz. This has really come in handy versus trying to hunt down these screws individually. And I actually tried going to Home Depot, to Lowe's, Ace Hardware, and nobody carries these smaller 440 screws. You might find them at a specialty screw store or whatnot. You know, in the Bay Area, there's a place called Olander in Sunnyvale, but you actually have to buy in $5 increments per item. So didn't really want to buy 100 of each of these size screws. Maybe later on, but definitely having that assortment has come in handy. So I'm going to switch over to the power driver just to save some time here. Again, I like to just finish off these by hand. Now, if you compare something, you know, we had to go through a lot to replace this bulkhead. Fair amount of disassembly, and it wasn't too simple, you know, fairly quite a fair amount of effort. And you know, again, I'm not a huge fan of these 1/16 hexes. I mean, it's just tiny compared to the size of the screw. If you were using equivalent metric screws here, that'd probably have you know, a substantially larger hex on there. So another reason why we replaced those screws with new ones, just didn't want to deal with any stripped hardware. And you know, something like this, it's just so small. Even, you know, trying to use an easy out or something to remove a strip screw would be really tough. And I'm just going around tightening everything a second go around just to make sure it's all evenly torqued. And you know, if I were going by an automotive, I can't even get that one in there. You know, I'd probably do it in a crisscross pattern just to make sure everything was torqued evenly. Alright, yeah, like this. Crisscross pattern. But alright. Definitely a lot of pieces go into these Losis. So now finally I can get the bumper on here and slide it in. So there's just a screw that goes through the bumper here and through this piece over here. So just a longer screw ties this all together. Actually, I should probably get the bottom in first, since that is a notch. All right, and I'll flip the truck this way. So see how that notches in, and then finish it off with these 440 by 1/2 inch screws in the bottom. So I had just only partially. Ooh. I think I got caught. Something pricked my finger there. So these are just ½ inch by 440 or 440 by 1/2 inch screws on the bottom. Yeah, definitely got some sort of metal splinter in my finger there. So let us know if you guys find these sorts of videos interesting and useful. If they're worth our time doing here. And I can't get this last screw lined up. Just put this upside down here. Rest it on the shock towers versus an angle. Yeah, definitely something jammed in my finger there. So let's make this all flat, line up the holes. First screw wasn't properly lined up there. It was going in a bit sideways. So why does this not seem to be lining up straight? So the nice thing about having standard or SAE non-metric hardware is that, at least here in the States, it's a lot easier to find the hardware or drivers like this. Metric stuff, especially in these smaller sizes, is sometimes a lot more difficult to track down. But then again, these screws I can find at my local hardware store. So again, just finish these off by hand. Just make sure that we don't strip anything. And you know, we can use a crisscross pattern or something like that if we felt like it as well. All right. So that probably took us a good approximately hour and a half, 2 hours to get everything disassembled, reassembled. I'd say maybe 2 hours or so. Well, there we go. This is starting to come back together. So thanks again for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time.